Rock concert movement number 1. The basic head bob. Ready, go.
Tardy getting in here. Oh, Bradshaw with you here on a absolutely awful Friday afternoon. It's hard to have an awful. It's just, it's cold. It's bleh. Here in the capital city. And maybe I'm just a little more on edge after, 2 days of Carmageddon on the interstates. I know we've had a drought. I know we haven't gotten a normal amount of rain. For whatever reason, we forget here in Iowa how to drive in it if we go more than like 2 weeks. And 2 days of condensed rainstorms was just a mess. It was nice. I saw an article on KCCI last night about rollover accidents on the West Mixmaster. And for whatever reason, and I know it's mostly because we have a lot of out-of-state people, 80-35, 2 major interstates coexisting in the same place at the same time is always going to be interesting. We have a lot of out-of-towners. We have a lot of over-the-road truckers, maybe not familiar with the area or just not through it enough that they remember. They really need to put signs further back so people can plan ahead. But just be careful going through there. I know it's a mess every rush hour, but it's just been a little dicey out there. All right, the phone number is 244-0077. All are welcome. Some are even capable. Email radiobradshaw@gmail.com and follow me on Twitter for fun and frivolity. Twitter.com/radiobradshaw, just at radiobradshaw. Go to the website, thebradshawshow.com, for almost all of your Bradshaw needs. New numbers, which is always fun. Gallup is a little weird, except it's nice to see folks like 538 or Ezra Klein finally picking up on what I was talking about a couple days ago. When you look at Gallup's numbers, and that is a nationwide. And it shows, Mitt Romney with a 7 or 8 point lead. Again, the numbers are the numbers, and you kind of scratch your head, but you look a little deeper. No, this isn't skewing the polls. Look at it by geography, and I don't think this has gotten enough attention. Like if you look in the Midwest, Obama up. Northeast, Obama up. Out west, Obama up. The only place, Romney wins is the South. And not only does it's a 22-point swing. And they really do live in their own world. It's freaky to watch, and it's kind of thrown Gallup's numbers out of the mainstream, where you see everything from, Obama with a half-point lead to a 3-point lead, but pretty much everyone's in the same margin of error ballpark. What's fun is we finally have some more Iowa numbers, with one interesting exception. And this, last night, comes from NBC, the Wall Street Journal, Marist. Shows Obama with an 8-point lead here in the state of Iowa. And again, my deepest dream is that we can finally be taken out of the swing state category. Looking at like Nate Silver's projection over at his 538 blog. Iowa's been a 70-75% chance blue state since the beginning of the cycle. I just want TV to get a little more sane. That's really, it's fun being a swing state. I enjoy getting all the attention, but as an Iowan who gets to go through the caucus process, I get enough of it. I'm okay. I don't think this is an abnormal feeling, but I'm okay with not getting a ton of attention in the general. I'm all right with that. But digging into the numbers a bit, not only is it show an 8-point lead here in Iowa, but a 6-point lead in Wisconsin. This is part of the firewall. This is the word you're going to hear way too much of in the next week. And I'll explain in a minute, but literally just hot off the presses. New numbers from public policy polling, which up until probably about a week ago was the arch Satan to the right, actually shows Romney with a 1-point lead here in Iowa. His favorability has improved. It's actually in the positive now. They take into account Obama's rather large lead, like 2-1, in early voting. And Obama is winning independents. Like I've been saying for weeks now, this is about drawing out your base. And I think the biggest thing to come out of the first debate was you saw a lot of really nonchalant, I'd vote for Romney, but I'm not all that jazzed about it. It's not a turn on. I'm not excited about it. Seeing him do to the president what they, dream of doing in their impotent little life in a cubicle or sitting on the Barca lounger, I think did have a rather exciting effect. And you're seeing that play out. The big thing about polls this time of year is what likely voter screen do you have? And every pollster has their own, which is why they all put out relatively different numbers. There's a difference between population as a whole, which varies greatly from even just registered voters, which then varies from likely voters. And depending on what screen, it's a sifter, basically. You take all the numbers, you sum out whatever your likely voter criteria is. And I don't know if anyone says specifically, like I know a number of pollsters, if you haven't voted before, you're automatically excluded from the likely voter. This is where some peculiarities can come in. If young people, for example, not everyone is a dork like me and is excited on their, I get to register to vote, I get to take part, yay! Even if it was a couple years later, I didn't get, to vote for the president until Bill Clinton in '96. Some good news, I guess. The Wiggins race isn't quite the blowout we saw last time. 37% say they plan to keep Wiggins' office. 43% say they're inclined to remove him. 20%, I say, are undecided. Mostly don't care. Branstad's approval's up, which makes sense because, they're not doing anything right now. Wait till we start gearing up for the legislative session. Harkin's good to go. And Grassley, again, I got to give credit to the old master. He is very good at propagating his image. Even if the reality behind it doesn't quite match up, he is very good at projecting that image. And at 54-28 approval. We'll see, though, how... I just don't know if he's going to run again. I don't know if Harkin's going to run again. I know Braley is all excited to jump in. He's not going to primary Harkin, but he certainly wants that seat, and I think would have a good amount of support for going after it. I just don't know if Grassley's going to want to go through it again. I don't know if he's one of those guys that wants to, die in office. And, I don't know if he's got that Leonard Boswell, because, a big part of the popularity there is, all the goodies we get for being first in the nation. And we've seen in the past few years, times have changed, Tomas, as a great man once said. Ethanol subsidy, gone. And, we're sitting right now, we don't have a farm bill. Farm bill expired at the end of September. and Republicans can't pass one through the House. John Boehner's typical trick is, okay, the wingnuts, in the House, won't let something get passed. Nancy? Can you send some votes my way? This is how stuff gets done in the House when, again, that Tea Party contingent that came in 2010 gets a little unruly, which is what we're seeing right now, and Iowa farmers get to pay for it. I don't know if one can get done in the lame duck session. That's a question you should probably be asking Tom Latham and Steve King. They're the folks that hold the key to the House, and right now the holdup, is food stamps. They want to cut that funding. Democrats aren't going to get on board with that. I'm guessing if you remove that, we could probably get something done. It's not like we had like a record-setting drought or anything this year. And it's not like, crop insurance programs are involved with the Farm Bill. But we're slowly seeing that kind of, what Iowa wants, Iowa gets, which has been a key to both Harkin and Grassley's success. Go by the wayside. Something that's kind of piqued my interest, just watching it play out, and maybe it's just because I'm tired of being around all those, blades being carried on trucks on the interstate, but as kind of the Saudi Arabia of wind is what we want to be here in Iowa. We have a lot riding on the wind energy tax credit. 81% of U.S. wind projects actually are in Republican districts. That kind of makes sense if you want to find desolate places that no one actually lives in. Good place for a wind town, and magically Republicans seem to be popular there. It's, again, a big thing in Iowa, whether it's, building them in Newton. All of our elected officials. I don't know, is there an Iowa elected official that is against the wind credit and wind energy subsidies? I don't think so. I mean, it's pretty universal. I mean, this is somewhere where, Tom Harkin can stand with Terry Branstad, can stand with... is Steve King on board? Probably. I'm sure he's attended a ribbon cutting for it, but that doesn't always mean he supports the project. He just wants the credit for it. Well, turns out we may have cracked the code as to why Republicans, who have benefited greatly from these projects, are magically opposed to the wind energy tax credit. And right now, as it kind of languishes in the House of Representatives, which causes harm already because producers, buyers, don't know what's coming in January. This is the uncertainty that Republicans claim to be against, but never seem to vote that way. Well, it turns out our good friends at Koch Industries, along with fossil fuel groups, have decided to make their goal, or their goal is to make the wind tax credit, quote, so toxic Republicans can't back it. So our goal is to make the PTC so toxic it makes it impossible for John Boehner to sit at a table with Harry Reid and say, yeah, I can bend on that one. That comes from Benjamin Cole, interesting name, spokesperson for the American Energy Alliance. Their president is actually a former director of federal affairs for Koch Industries. Has other ties with Koch. Other groups in the Koch brothers network, the American Tradition Institute, Americans for Prosperity, American Legislation Exchange Council, like ALEC, have been going after wind for a long time. They got a hold of a memo from the American Tradition Institute. So he's forming dummy businesses as a counterintelligence branch against the wind industry. 75,000 jobs, not temporary jobs like the Keystone Pipeline, installing, maintaining, building here in Newton rest on these jobs or rest on these tax credits. It's raised $20 billion in private investment. Iowa is a model for the nation. We hit John Kerry's, 20 and 20% alternative energy, alternative electricity and the like within 20 years. We're already there. We hit that last year. 20% of electricity comes from wind. It's not putting any mercury into the air. It's not causing any asthma. The birds might not like it, but you know what? Screw the birds. You take a ride down I-80 or up 35, you'll see the wind farms. And freakishly, there's always one turbine that's not spinning. I don't know if it's the test case, the sample, if it's maybe it's maintenance, but there's always, whenever you see the wind farms, there's always one. Look for it. You'll see it. At least one that's not moving, no matter how, you could be Hurricane Ike up in there, and you still wouldn't see it. Now, it makes sense that groups allied with petroleum companies might not like this alternative. Kind of laughable when Republicans say, "Oh, you know what? We don't want to pick winners and losers. We want to just level the playing field." Well, what do you think about killing the $4 billion a year in tax credits and bonuses for the petroleum industries? Well, those are vital because we talk and I joke about Republicans wanting to vote against their self-interest. But does it get more blatant than this? Why do you think Mitt Romney, who absolutely, positively has to have Iowa, would come out and say, I'm for abolishing the wind energy tax credit, which I'm sure made Branstad real happy after endorsing Romney. But it's easy enough to buy these Tea Party congressmen. And if you can't buy them outright, all you got to do is threaten to Dick Lugar them. No, don't go to Urban Dictionary. That is where staunch conservatives are getting primaried from the right and losing to moonbats, wingnuts, and in one case, well, she said she wasn't a witch, but she's got a past. If these guys are potent enough to replace you with Christine O'Donnell, there's not much they can't do, at least on the Republican side. So we figured out why magically, and Republicans that have been very successful at getting these projects set up in their home districts, bringing home the bacon. Again, it's bacon when you bring it home, it's pork when someone else does. Now, thanks to, again, a handful of people, in this case, two guys, the Koch brothers, and their lackeys, can almost single-handedly dictate energy policy in this country. And they can convince Iowans to be excited about screwing ourselves, about causing job losses. Screw Newton. Screw Northern Iowa. Get them fired up and ready to go to do it. It really is, well, sad. Again, this is the influence of money. The dead dinosaur industry has outspent clean energy 4-1. 90% of that money goes to Republicans who are more than willing to carry their, oil-slicked water. We'll just call it clean coal. Maybe we can call it happy asthma or something, or Celebration Mercury. we shouldn't be building more coal plants. Now, the Koch brothers and the like have an easier time. There's a bunch of kooks on the left who won't let us get nuclear power. What? It involves atoms? I don't want anything involving atoms in my body. That's the sort of logic you get from those groups. And on the plus side, groups like Mid-American aren't smart enough to, okay, if we play this right, we can actually get a plant built in Iowa, but what the heck, let's go for broke. Let's see if we can get them to pay for it before we even build it, if we even build it. So certainly Mid-America is not helping matters any. But whether it's wind, whether it's solar, nuclear, we need to burn something other than dead dinosaurs. If for no other reason, again, we talked about this at the debate. The price of dead dinosaurs isn't going down anytime soon. You'll see fluctuations in the price of gas. It's down, 20 cents in the metro in the past couple of weeks. But we're not going back to $1 a gallon gas. We're not even getting back to probably $2.50 a gallon gas. The only thing that'll bring that back is another Great Recession. As much as I enjoy filling up my tank, right, for $15, $20, overall the cost really isn't worth it. All right, 244-0077. Email me, radiobradshaw@gmail.com. Go follow me on Twitter. Just go to thebradshawshow.com for all of your magical Bradshaw needs. It's just, again, it's amazing. How many people show up at these AstroTurf, Americans for Prosperity rallies. And in turn, look at this turnout. This is proof that we have influence. Iowan, vote against wind energy or else. And these, Gadsden flag, keep your government hands off my Medicare rascal scooter brigades. Eat it up. I say, you get the government you deserve. So let's hope that the public policy polling for today is an outlier, because if not, if Iowa votes for the guy who says straight up, I want to get rid of the wind energy tax credit, we got problems in this country. Big ones. All right, email me, follow me on Twitter. Got to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about this Midwestern firewall. Again, word you will hear way too much of him in the next week. And what is it and how solid is it? We'll explain when we come back here on The Bradshaw Show, Webcast One Live. Thanks for watching. Back right after this.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
It's like they want to get hit.
Need a body shop?
Minor Wreck Express saves you time and money.
Hi, I'm J. Michael McCoy, and about 20 years ago, I went to a used car salesman by the name of John Hewitt. He had a little shop over there on North 2nd Avenue called John's Auto Sales, and I bought a car. I found that experience to be one that I had never had before from a used car salesman. He was honest, he was dependable, he had integrity, and he did what he said he was going to do. Well, over the years, between my kids and grandkids, I purchased 7 vehicles from John's Auto Sales. And last month, I asked him to be a sponsor. And he said not only would he like to be a sponsor, but he would offer a $100 $100 tithe for every customer that came and bought a car from him directly to the church of your choice. I can tell you about their huge selection. I can tell you about their years of experience. I can tell you about their honest integrity. But all I really need to tell you is that I bought 7 cars and you can trust them. John's Auto Sales, 5435 2nd Avenue, Des Moines.
You need a good ride when you hit the trail. Trust the man with the cars, and he goes by the name of Big John. Big John. Big John.
Ever feel like there's more to life? God offers more. Chat now with an online coach at groundwire.net.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
It's time to start.
Rock concert movement number 1. The basic head bob. Ready, go.
All right, it's 1:56 now. Bradshaw with you here on Webcast One Live. Glad to have you along here on a Friday afternoon. Got to get down on Friday. Phone number is 244-0077. You can email me, radiobradshaw@gmail.com. And follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/radiobradshaw. This is findable at thebradshawshow.com. Conventional wisdom, which is, again, rarely wise, or common sense, which is flamingly uncommon, leading up to this election, said that the Midwest would be tough for Obama to win, whether it's loss of manufacturing jobs, the economy still, dealing with the Great Recession, or just the fact it has a lot of white people. The Midwest was seen as kind of, the vulnerable underbelly of the Obama machine here in 2012. No one expected him to win, Indiana again. No one expects him to, pull an electoral vote out of Nebraska. But looking through, other than the boat race states, no one's contesting Mississippi to the best of my knowledge, or California, Illinois, New York. When you take out, again, frankly, the states that were decided in 1965, the place where Obama, among contested states, has held his most consistent leads is the Midwest. Wisconsin, I know a number of Republicans after the Walker recall, loss, we're doing cartwheels in the street saying, Wisconsin's ours. The proof is right there. It's conventional wisdom. It's common sense. This is where more data equals better than. And when you saw even a majority of liberals in Wisconsin believed that recall was wrong under any circumstance, they weren't voting party. They were voting their beliefs. And I think pretty much every Republican pundit in the country had already, we're just going to paint this one red now and call it good. Well, it turns out that's not the case. Obama has had solid leads in Wisconsin. Ohio looks to be the swing state in the country right now. Everyone and their mother is going to spend as much time in Ohio as they can, or I guess this case, everyone, their wife, their mother, Bruce Springsteen, Justin Long, Seth MacFarlane, you get the idea. That's why, even at this point, we're getting so much attention. But looking at the leads in Ohio, in Michigan, and Wisconsin, Ohio, that's what makes the map so pro-Obama. Because some funny things have happened in the last year. Just today, a new unemployment report here in the state of Iowa. It's actually down to 5.2%, far better than the nation as a whole. But it's not just us. Ohio is at a 7, and that's down from a 7.2 last month. In Wisconsin, it's 7.3, down from a 7.5 last month. Now, we talked about before the break. Gas prices are down, which I guess means that Fox News is going to go back to believing that a president can't influence gas prices. Again, whether they believe that they can or not typically hinges on, again, what party has the presidency and what's the price of gas. Because their opinion on the issue is highly variable, and we'll just leave it at that. You can go back and watch Wednesday's show. Played some great clips from Fox News in 2008. And even O'Reilly claiming that, if a politician saying you bring down the price of gas, that's BS. Everyone forgets, before the meltdown happened, remember, we were all bitching about $4 gas. Remember, it caused people to stop buying SUVs, kind of hamstrung the American auto industry that didn't know how to sell us anything but. All of these things have been conveniently forgotten by the right, and we have always been at war with East Asia. But all the economic indicators are looking good for the incumbent. Again, the president can't affect gas prices, but he can get undeserved credit or blame for them. I mean, that's just marketing and politics. But things are trending in the right way at the right time, which I'm sure someone right now, Michelle Malkin's staff or over at Freep, is telling us that it's a huge conspiracy and the fix is in everywhere. Told you the public policy polling numbers last segment. The one kind of odd duckling in the mix showing Romney with a 1-point lead. And again, it's not. This isn't skewing. We're not saying that the fix is in. I do find it interesting. They show the president with only a 1-point lead among women. That sounds to me like a likely voter screen issue. But that's just me. We're not. No conspiracy. This isn't tinfoil hat territory. Don't worry. I'm not a Republican. I think we will be pleasantly surprised with the way Iowa goes here in 3 weeks. But the Midwest looks to be, again, the difference, the firewall. That's what's keeping the map blue. Even if we lose Florida, even if we lose Virginia, what you're going to see is a much easier path, and I think Republicans would admit this in their moments of honesty, a much easier path to 270 for Obama than Mitt Romney. And I just don't know if he's going to get another good news cycle like he did after the first debate. A lot more attention. And I'm not talking about the Romnesia. That's the line du jour. The president popped out. And I'm sure someone in Axelrod's office has had that in their pocket to use for a while. And it is slightly more artistic than multiple choice mints. So we'll defer there. But we're kind of wasting our time with, binders full of women. As much, again, that's a good line. It's memorable like Big Bird. But there are far better things. If you're going to smack Mitt Romney, and I love to, there are far better ways to do it. This one of my favorite, over Romney's tax plan. And again, this is his kind of voodoo, trickle-down, magic pixie dust, step 3, question mark, question mark, question mark, step 4, profit, plan to cut all tax, brackets by 20%. But it's going to be revenue neutral because we're going to close loopholes. Which ones? Well, I can't tell you, because Mitt won't tell us. Spoiler alert, Mitt Romney will never tell us. Up until the second debate, the defense of this plan has always been to Colonel Sanders' defense, we have a special mix of 6 studies that show my tax plan work. Actually, most of them are blog posts and 2 op-ed pieces in the Wall Street Journal. So that sort of fell apart when Glenn Kessler over at the Washington Post asked for sources and read what those sources actually said. Now, this is the defense. The reason Mitt Romney's tax plan magically works is because of a 2006 study from the Congressional Joint Committee on Taxation that actually shows that a Romney-style tax plan could bolster growth. Devil here's in the details. It would cause between 1 and 2% growth over 10 years. So you're looking anywhere between 100 to 200,000 jobs a year for a decade. And all it will cost is the removal of all personal exemptions, itemized deductions, personal credits, except for the earned income tax credit. That gets to stay. All above the line adjustments to income, except for retirement saving deductions, the home mortgage interest expense, the state and local tax exemption, the charitable contribution deduction, the deduction for employer contributions for health and life insurance would be repealed. All that would be left pretty much is the standard deduction. So, if that sounds like a good plan to you, then Mitt Romney's tax plan absolutely works. Doesn't explode the deficit. It will cause middle class taxes to shoot up. But who could have foreseen this? Other than, everyone. So it's pick your poison with the Romney plan. I know binders full of women is a fun meme, and it's fun to say, and it's certainly some vivid imagery, especially for those of us who grew up before internet porn. Just saying that perhaps there are more substantive issues to go after Romney on, like his basically magic underpants tax plan. It's magic in the underwear. Oh, you thought it was a Mormon thing. And we are seeing at least a little movement in that department. Kudos again to Paul Krugman, New York Times today. Snow job on jobs. So you can defend President Obama's jobs record. Recovery from a severe financial crisis is always difficult, especially so when the opposition party does its best to block every policy initiative you propose. Things have definitely improved over the past year. Still, unemployment remains high after all these years, and a candidate with a real plan to make things better could make a strong case for his election. But Mr. Romney, it turns out, doesn't have a plan. He's just faking it. Now, those are pretty pointed words for the American media that, again, doesn't call lies lies. Again, we live in the Jennifer Jacobs era of journalism. He said, she said, I'm balanced, done. Didn't require any thought from me. It shouldn't require any thought from you. Just read it. But he goes through the plan. And you can find the piece on the New York Times website. It kind of does the same breaking down that the Washington Post did. How, these, studies that back up our jobs plan don't actually mention Romney's jobs plan at all. That's not what they were written for. It's a sham. You're being hoodwinked, bamboozled, run amok. 12 billion. You didn't land on 12 million jobs. 12 million jobs landed on you. Actually, the 12 million job really comes from the Department of Numbers pulled out of one's backside. I mean, you can hear it from time to time in Romney's own addresses. It's oh, we expect to see a market bounce just from my election. This mythical confidence fairy. It's the question mark at step 3. It's the voodoo in voodoo economics. It's the, supposed trickle down. There's real things to attack him on. When he says, I came up from small business. Bain Capital is small. You have a different definition of small business as I do. Whether it's his tax plan. I'm not going to sit here and sort of mansplain women's issues. As a non-uterine American, I'm not necessarily qualified what to tell women to do with their bodies. I also believe that Mitt Romney, Paul Ryan, or my favorite, Joe Walsh, not the guy from the Eagles, the guy, congressman from Illinois, who said that, you would think this would be kind of disqualifying, but he said there's no such thing as an abortion to save a woman's life. Doesn't exist. It's made up. It's hokum. I posted a link on my Twitter feed. You would think saying something like that would disqualify you from higher office, but these are interesting times we live in. There's plenty of things actually go after, and I don't know, maybe this is preparation for the debate on Monday, which I am greatly looking forward to. The president mentioned it last night in his stand-up routine at the Al Smith dinner. This is the, big charity event where the Republican candidate, the Democratic candidate come together. It's a, it's a big fundraiser that causes some friction. In fact, there was some talk that it might not even occur this year. There were a few times in the past, where in '96 was when they were so upset at Bill Clinton, they just didn't invite him or Dole. And there was some talk with the birth control mandate that perhaps it would be blown up again. Turns out it wasn't. Both candidates were quite humorous, and I just wonder how much of that came from, I don't know, the studies over the last decade or so that show a vast, vast, vast majority, almost all Catholic women in America using birth control. A huge number. Might not be on it at the time, but have used it. And maybe that's again, overused word alert, firewall that's coming down. We can hope. All right, 244-0077. Email radiobradshaw@gmail.com and follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/radiobradshaw. Just go to, I got to do it backwards, thebradshawshow.com for all of your Bradshaw needs. One interesting piece coming from The Nation. Greg Palast put this out. He decided to look a little deeper into the GM bailouts, since it's become a rather contentious issue, with Romney claiming in 2008, we need to let Detroit go bankrupt. That was his 2008 New York Times op-ed. Little known fact, Romney made at least $15 million himself from the bailout. And private equity firms and vulture capitalists walked away with almost $4 billion. Not straight up government money, mind you, but through, return on investment that, we built. Here's how they did it. Delphi Automotive. They make parts for GM. They are an integral part. Part of the reason of doing the auto bailout wasn't just to save GM, Chrysler, and P.S. loan a crap load of money to Ford too, but they don't like to talk about that. It was to keep their suppliers in business. Because you can talk all you want about, GM plants around the country. The spider web of parts suppliers is huge. And it runs right through, Ohio, Indiana, Tennessee. So the kind of, aftershocks, the ripples from, as Mitt called it, letting Detroit go bankrupt would have, again, gone throughout. Frankly, the Rust Belt, they can't afford to lose a single job. So Delphi Automotive is a key contributor to GM Chrysler parts. No bailout was going to work without bailing out Delphi. The problem had come that Delphi had already hit on hard times even before the bailout, and had been infested with, vulture capitalists. Elliott Management, which is directed by Paul Singer, who has donated $2.3 million to the GOP this year. Just saying. His, MO is to buy distressed crap and then demand full repayment, buy bad debt, and find some way to leverage himself into getting 100 cents on the dollar. So, and this is a guy that Mitt Romney personally invests with. They purchase what was at the time considered junk. They buy Delphi's debt in bankruptcy for about 20 cents on the dollar. Then, comes $5 gas, SUV sales tank. The big three are in trouble. So here comes the government to save GM, and Delphi being an integral part of that. What's the first thing these vulture capitalists do? Well, according to Stephen Ratner, he is a hedge fund manager who was put in charge of Obama's auto task force. First thing that these guys do is tell Treasury Department, the folks handling the controlled crash of GM, to hand over $350 million, because if you don't, quote, we'll shut you down. In other words, they'll just shutter Delphi, and your bailout won't work without us. They then, so the deal's already a success. So now it's time to play, and like the Coke Zero guy. They demanded that these junk bonds that they had bought 20 cents on the dollar were redeemed in full, and since there are 25,200 unionized Delphi workers, they demanded to get out of their pension payments. And you know what? They got it. Because at every single step of the way, if you don't give us what we want, this is how kind of vulture capitalism works. Find that leverage. This was the same way that Mitt made money on, the bank bailouts. He would get written to these contracts that we can liquidate the company at any time, disperse the cash on hand to management and investors, and leave the FDIC, holding the bag. And they threatened to, shoot the hostage. This is what they did with Delphi. So not only did we pay them $350 million just to be nice enough to sit at the table, and then redeem junk that they had bought for 100 cents on the dollar. We also picked up their pension liabilities. In 2011, they took the company public at $22 a share and reaped billions. The almost sickest part, and you can read it, thenation.com. It's called Mitt Romney's Bailout Bonanza, because I'm barely scratching the surface here. I'm no Matt Taibbi. What was our thanks for, well, building that for him? The powers that be, friends of Mitt, if you will, rounded up some Delphi workers to blame President Obama for their pension becoming less valuable. They spent $7 million in ad buys from Let Freedom Ring, a 501c4 nonprofit advocacy organization funded by billionaire Jack Templeton Jr. Runs an anti-union think tank. But he found retirees to bash Obama with, asking, why did President Obama, cut my pension? It's amazing. The gall. I mean, I guess if you can pull it off, kudos. To some degree, the same way you can look at a Pablo Escobar or an Al Capone and kind of got to tip your cap in some degree. But go read the piece. This is what, Mitt Romney and friends do for a living. And it causes damage. And, depending where you look, there's 45, 48, 50% of the population wants to reward that. No wonder we're in a hole. Another piece I found interesting, and I've seen it pop up a few places. It's something I talked about a couple of years ago. About the time Sarah Palin was saying, hey, send me money and I'll think about running for president. She used a good chunk of that, remember, to do a bus tour that she didn't quite finish. I don't even think she got to the halfway point. But it did leave us some incredible memories. Like the time the Palin family went to Mount Vernon. And Piper Palin ran an interesting question, which is, wow, how did George Washington have time to work all these fields? I guess they didn't take her to the slave quarter portion of the estate. I think the original ones were torn down, but I think they have some replicas there. I haven't been since 8th grade, but memory serves. But a rise in these scam packs. Again, wherever you can find a group of right-wingers, there's going to be a grifter there looking to take them for everything they're worth. Whether it's a Dinesh D'Souza, who probably won't be making any movies anytime soon. He's a little busy these days. Number of banging his fiancée while married to his wife. But that's... maybe he's just a really Old Testament definition of marriage kind of guy.
I was just thinking he's too busy cashing checks from the last one.
I think he's going to be writing some checks to the last.
I don't know. Every conservative I know has seen his movie.
Oh, they lap it up. It is a bottomless pit.
I can't tell you how many times I've been told, go see this movie. It'll change your mind. I'm like, I'm not going to go watch a propaganda movie so that I can getting indoctrinated with your red.
Well, and
red
that's
things.
part of the beauty of the right-wing movement is that they will get people who will gladly fork over their, $7.25.
There's nobody that's $7.25 anymore. I think it's all like $9.25 now, unless you're going to the Days show.
Yeah, I go. I'm a matinee man because
you don't have a job.
Less kids there.
That's true, but I don't think you're going to have a whole lot of kids at 2016.
Mentally or chronologically?
Chronologically.
Then you're probably right. But just overall movies,
I mean, they're probably going to the Finding Nemo or whatever's out right now in 3D that they've rehashed because it's cheaper.
Yeah. Well, the point, I mean, there's just an industry. And what's in it? There are some legitimate grifters out there. Ann Coulter actually, produces a book. Like, I won't vouch for the quality of the book, but it gives, conservatives a hate on, so they're more than happy to pay for it. The grifting angle is a little more subtle, almost televangelism. One of the groups is the Tea Party Express. Popped up in 2009. We saw a bunch of Tea Party groups pop up. We saw Tea Party conventions that would charge $50, $75 a head. In this case, the Tea Party Express was launched by a political action committee. Our country deserves better. And this goes back to 2009. 2/3 of the money they raised went to paying the consulting firm whose lead partner co-founded the PAC. I mean, it's kind of a genius plan if you think about it. Form a PAC, raise money, funnel that money back into us. There have been a handful of groups like this. Exclusively right-wing. Like if you want to donate to Sarah Pack, she's a right-wing celebrity who's, last I checked, her political action committee had spent more money buying copies of her book to give to donors than giving money to actual candidates to affect any sort of change or influence an election. That's your right. Money would probably be better served just taking it out in the street and burning it. But you certainly have the right. But at least people should know. This is like when liberals argue for gun locks. We're not the ones with a drawer full of Glocks. It's not our kids that are, Tommy, look what I found. Because again, ask any, person who's ever tried to hide a Playboy magazine in the sock drawer. They get found. Not every gun owner is a responsible human being. But this is where, we argue for trigger locks. Not to save our own kids' lives. We'll take care of that ourselves. But to help those who don't have parents who can help themselves. In the same way, pay attention to some of these folk. I mean, how many people have written a check to Dinesh D'Souza? Well, other than his mistress. How many people have sent money to the Tea Party Express? You're getting ripped off. They're scamming you. They are grifters. And don't fall for that prayer rug they send you in the mail anyway. That thing's... I don't know. Just trying to do my good deed for the day. I may not like many of you. I don't want you to win anything ever. But I feel bad watching this stuff. And it certainly doesn't help when groups like CNN, right, who... Again, kind of lost in the weeds these days between the, liberal-leaning MSNBC and the full-blown right-wing propaganda machine that is Fox. They're just kind of sitting there. I don't know. Let's put on Aaron Burnett and Nancy Grace and Glenn Beck and what's Wolf Blitzer, up to. They're kind of in the weeds, but they're continuing to host these Tea Party Express people. They did a Republican debate in conjunction with the Tea Party Express. They're aiding and abetting. And they should know better. And again, I'm not giving to any Tea Party groups or right-wing PACs, but you might just want to maybe ask what they're doing with the money. At least give it to the Koch brothers or something, because they're going to, they're up front with trying to screw you with your own money. Give to the Chamber of Commerce. Just sad stuff. All right, Monday is the third and final presidential debate. This one is foreign policy, which is going to be Libya. A couple wild cards in there. Maybe the most credible reports of Fidel Castro's downfall ever. And Florida has some real issues with Cuban diplomacy. So that's going to come up. And, of course, Boca Raton is where the debate is held, is the same town we found the 47% tape being recorded. Also a very Jewish area, so I think we're going to hear a lot of Israel. So it'll be interesting to kind of watch Mitt toe the line. Should be a fun debate, and I think certainly the president learned from his first debate experience that things can and will go very wrong if he's not forceful. So Monday night will be fun. We'll sort of preview it. We'll know more about the situation on Monday. So we'll preview that, and then, of course, Tuesday we'll do the full debate recap. And if it goes really, really well, I may do like the Gangnam Style dancing around. Just fair warning. All right, email me, radiobrad@gmail.com.
I won't produce any of that nonsense.
I'll do it right now. Don't tempt me. It's Friday.
I've got the mute button, and I can... No, stop. I'll turn it off. Okay, we're done.
All right. Email me, radiobrad@gmail.com. Follow me on Twitter. I will see you fine folks on Monday. Have a wonderful weekend. The weather should be beautiful, and we'll reconvene 1:30 Monday here on The Bradshaw Show on Webcast One. Thanks for watching.